Somebody tried to replace your energy, my love, and it did not work. They thought if they surrounded themselves with other options, other faces, other conversations, other distractions, they would stop feeling so pulled toward you. But the more they looked elsewhere, the more obvious it became. Nobody was carrying what you carry. Hi, my love. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I am really glad this reading found you because this energy feels very specific tonight. And the card coming through first is the Seven of Cups reversed. Now, I do not want to read this like fortune telling. I want to read this as psychological symbolism because this card is showing somebody waking up from an illusion. At first, this person may have thought they had choices. They may have told themselves, I can find this feeling somewhere else. I can replace this energy. I can distract myself until I stop caring. But here is where it gets deeper. The Seven of Cups reversed is not showing more options. It is showing options losing their magic. It is showing someone realizing that what looked exciting from a distance feels empty up close. And that is exactly what happened here. They tried to compare you to other people, but the comparison made your value louder. They tried to entertain other attention, but it did not hit the same place. They tried to act like your absence was not affecting them, but their mind kept circling back to you anyway. I thought someone else would take my mind off her, but it only made me notice what they were missing. That thought has been sitting in their chest heavier than they want to admit. Because your energy is expensive, not because you are cold, not because you are unreachable, not because you think you are better than anyone. Your energy is expensive because access to you costs truth. It costs consistency. It costs emotional maturity. It costs kind of courage this person may not have had when they first encountered you. And now they are frustrated because they cannot get the feeling of you from someone cheaper, easier, louder, or more available. This is why they could not replace you. They were not just attracted to your surface. They were addicted to the standard your presence made them feel. And now with Judgment sitting here, this is not subtle. Because Judgment is the card of the wake-up call. Not punishment, not doom, not somebody being forced by the universe to come running back in some dramatic way. Psychologically, Judgment is that moment when the noise gets quiet enough for the truth to be heard. And this person is hearing it. They are starting to understand that what they felt around you was not just attraction. It was not just chemistry. It was not just, oh, she looks good. Oh, I like her vibe. Oh, she makes me curious. No, my love. You activated something in them. You made them aware of the part of themselves that wanted to be better, more honest, more present, more emotionally grown. And that is why this has been so hard for them to replace, because other people may have made them feel wanted, but you made them feel awake. Other people may have entertained them, but you made them reflect. Other people may have accepted the surface version of them, but your energy quietly called something deeper forward. And here is where it gets deeper. I do not think you had to say much to do this. Your presence alone may have made this person aware of where they were still hiding, where they were still playing small, where they were still using charm, silence, options, or distance to avoid being truly known. That is expensive energy because you were not just giving them attention, you were giving them a mirror. And not everybody is ready to look into a mirror that clear. So when they went elsewhere, they may have found people who asked less of them, people who did not challenge their patterns, people who did not make them feel the weight of their own emotional choices. And maybe for a moment that felt easier. But easier did not mean better. Easier did not touch their soul. Easier did not make them feel chosen by something real inside themselves. And now there is this quiet frustration building because they are realizing they did not just lose access to you. They lost access to the version of themselves that only seemed to come alive in your presence. And with this Three of Swords reversed coming through, I feel like this is where the conflict inside of them starts to show. Because upright, the Three of Swords can be the wound. But reversed, psychologically, this is somebody trying to pull the sword out without admitting who put it there. This is somebody trying to heal around the truth instead of going through it. And that is the contradiction with this person. They wanted your energy, but they did not want responsibility that came with being close to you. They wanted the feeling of being understood, but they did not want to be transparent. They wanted the comfort of your presence, but they did not want to meet the standard your presence naturally required. So they may have acted casual when their feelings were not casual. They may have acted distracted when they were actually affected. They may have kept one foot out, not because they did not feel anything, but because feeling something around you made them aware of what they were not ready to give. And that is where the regret gets complicated. Because part of them may still want to blame the timing, the situation, their past, their fear, their confusion, anything but the fact that they were standing in front of something real and still chose to move like it was replaceable. I wanted her close, but I did not want to become the person I would have to be to keep her. That is the thought underneath this card. That is the part they do not want to say out loud, because other people may have comforted their ego. You confronted their truth, not aggressively, not by demanding, not by chasing them down for answers, just by being someone whose energy made emotional inconsistency feel obvious. And when someone is used to being able to hide behind charm, mixed signals, or silence, that kind of presence can feel confronting. So yes, they may be frustrated. But the frustration is not only about missing you, it is about knowing that they had access to something that could have helped them become more honest. And they fumbled it because they were not ready to be seen that clearly. And now they are watching you differently. Because you did not collapse, you did not cheapen yourself. You did not become easier to access just because they became harder to read. And that is why this Two of Swords is so important here. Because this card is showing someone sitting in the middle of a choice they did not want to make. Psychologically, the Two of Swords is not just confusion, it is avoidance. It is somebody closing their eyes because if they really look at the truth, they know they will have to respond differently. And I feel like that is what your absence has done. It has taken away their ability to pretend they do not know. Because when you were open, when you were warm, when you were still explaining yourself, still offering patience, still trying to make things clear, they may have mistaken that for something they could always access. They may have thought your emotional care would just stay there, waiting, adjusting, understanding, making room for their uncertainty. But when you pulled your energy back, my love, that is when the silence started speaking. Not because you were playing games, not because you wanted control, not because you were trying to make them suffer, but because your spirit finally stopped negotiating with someone who could not meet it clearly. And this is what they did not expect. They thought your silence would make you easier to forget. They thought if there was less communication, less access, less emotional presence from you, then the feeling would fade. But the opposite happened. Your absence made your value louder. Because now they are realizing how much emotional labor you were carrying, how much warmth you were giving, how much softness, patience, understanding, and presence they were receiving without truly appreciating the cost of it. And the Two of Swords shows this person stuck because they can feel the difference now. They can feel what it is like to not have your energy smoothing over the confusion. They can feel what it is like when you are no longer reaching across the silence to make them feel safe. And that unsettles them because you did not become bitter. You became quieter. You did not become cruel. You became harder to access without truth. And the most painful part for this person may not be that you are gone. It may be that somewhere deep down, they are starting to wonder if you are no longer emotionally waiting. And this Ace of Pentacles reversed is interesting because it shows me something they did not want to admit. There was an opportunity here. Something real could have been planted. Something could have grown if it had been held correctly. But reversed, this card is showing potential that was not grounded. A seed that was recognized but not protected. A real offer, a real feeling, a real pull, but somebody not knowing how to bring it down into something stable. And that is why the distractions are not working. Because distractions can give a person movement. They can give them attention. They can give them a moment where their ego feels wanted again, but they cannot give them roots. They found attention, but not presence. They found beauty, but not resonance. They found conversation, but not recognition. They found people who could respond quickly, flirt easily, laugh at the right moments, make things feel light, but it still did not land in the same place. And I do not say that to put anybody else down. This is not about other people being less. This is about the energetic mismatch becoming impossible to ignore. Because when someone has felt your depth, surface level attention starts to feel noisy after a while. When someone has felt your emotional intelligence, random conversation starts to feel thin. When someone has felt your patience, your warmth, your ability to see beyond the mask, then easy access from someone else does not feel like nourishment. It feels like a distraction wearing perfume. And the frustrating part for them is that they may have wanted those distractions to work. They may have wanted to prove to themselves that you were not that different, that the connection was not that rare, that the standard you represented could be found again if they just kept looking. But this is every time they looked, something in them compared. Not always consciously, not always fairly, but quietly. This should be enough. So why am I still thinking about her? That is the irritation under this Ace of Pentacles reversed, because they had something with substance in front of them, and now they are trying to feel full from things that do not feed the same part of them. And the more they compare, the more they are starting to realize this was never just attraction. It was attachment to a feeling they mishandled, mixed with regret they cannot easily put down. And now, this High Priestess reversed makes the whole thing even clearer. Because the High Priestess upright is inner knowing. It is intuition. It is the quiet truth you feel before anyone says anything out loud. But reversed psychologically, this can be someone disconnected from their own knowing. Someone ignoring what they feel, because admitting it would require them to act with more honesty than they are comfortable with. And that is why I do not want to romanticize this too much, my love. Because yes, this person may be obsessed. Yes, they may be frustrated. Yes, they may be realizing that nobody replaced what they felt with you. But obsession is not always devotion. Sometimes obsession is desire crashing into ego. Sometimes it is someone wanting the feeling, but not wanting the accountability that comes with the feeling. And that is what I keep seeing here. They wanted the pull. They wanted the mystery. They wanted the emotional charge of being around someone who made them feel something deeper than usual. But they did not necessarily know how to honor it. I do not want to make this bigger than it is, but I also do not want to shrink what your spirit knows. Because you know when someone feels you. You know when someone is affected by your presence, this even if they try to act untouched. You know when the silence is not empty. But the High Priestess reversed says this person may have tried to deny their own inner knowing because your energy made something too real. You were not just a fantasy. You were a mirror. And that mirror showed them where they were emotionally underdeveloped, where they were still choosing comfort over courage, where they wanted deep connection but still moved from shallow patterns. So their attraction started becoming dependency because they wanted to feel awakened without having to wake up. They wanted to be close to your depth without meeting their own. They wanted access to the feeling of you without becoming responsible for the way they handled you. And that is where the ego gets involved. Because when someone wants what you carry but does not feel capable of meeting it, sometimes they do not admit, I was not ready. Sometimes they say, she was too much. Sometimes they say, it was not that serious. Sometimes they try to make you smaller in their mind before they can admit you made them see themselves too clearly. And that is exactly why this Queen of Swords reversed is coming through. Because upright, the Queen of Swords is clarity. She sees what is true. She knows what is clean, what is honest, what is direct. But reversed, psychologically, this can show someone twisting the story because the truth feels too sharp to hold. And I feel like that is what they may have done with you. They may have tried to tell themselves you were too guarded, too intense, too hard to read, too serious, too much in your head. Or maybe they told themselves you were not worth the effort because admitting you were worth the effort would have forced them to confront why they did not make one. And that is where I want you to be very careful, my love. Because sometimes people will call you difficult when what they really mean is, I cannot access you without accountability. Sometimes they will call you cold when what they really mean is, you stopped warming a place where I kept bringing confusion. Sometimes they will call you complicated when what they really mean is, you are not letting me stay vague and still receive the best parts of you. That does not mean you are perfect. That does not mean you never have walls. But in this energy, I do not feel like the issue was that you were impossible to understand. I feel like the issue was that understanding you required them to be honest with themselves. And that is expensive. So they may have tried to devalue what they could not emotionally afford. They may have tried to make your standards sound like an attitude. They may have tried to make your silence sound like pride. They may have tried to make your boundaries sound like rejection. But calling you too much did not make them feel less empty. Calling you hard to read did not make them stop reading into everything you did. Calling the connection unserious did not make their nervous system forget how different you felt. And now your peace is becoming louder than anything you could have said, because you are not arguing your value anymore. You are embodying it. And that is what has them panicking quietly. And with this Seven of Wands coming through, I feel like your energy has shifted into protection, not defensiveness, not hostility, not I hate you, stay away from me, but protection. Psychologically, the Seven of Wands is someone who has finally realized that peace has to be guarded when confusion keeps trying to come back in. And this is what they are sensing from you now. You are not the same kind of available. You are not standing in the same emotional doorway with the same open hands, waiting to see if they will finally choose clarity. Something about you feels more held now, more contained, more aware of what your energy costs. And that is what is making this person uncomfortable, because they cannot tell exactly where they stand with you anymore. They cannot tell if you still care but have learned restraint. They cannot tell if you healed. They cannot tell if you outgrew the whole cycle and simply stopped needing them to understand what they lost. And that uncertainty is doing something to them. Because before, even if you were hurt, even if you were confused, even if you were disappointed, they may have still felt your emotional availability. They may have still felt that part of you reaching. But now, you are not begging. You are not proving. You are not standing in the same place emotionally. You are not making your softness available to someone who only knows how to approach it when it is convenient. And that does not mean you became cold, my love. It means you became honest with yourself. There is a difference. Coldness says, I do not feel. Wisdom says, I feel, but I am not abandoning myself just to make someone else comfortable. And that is the energy they are picking up on. The Seven of Wands is showing your boundary as something alive, something they can feel even if you have not said a word. And this is why their panic is quiet, because they may want to come closer. They may want to test the waters. They may want to see if the door is still open, but something in them already knows the old version of them cannot walk through it anymore. So the question is no longer whether they miss you. The question is whether they can meet you correctly. And with this Seven of Pentacles here, that question becomes very real. Because this card is not fast movement. It is not impulse. It is not someone rushing in because the feeling got too loud for one night. Psychologically, the Seven of Pentacles is evaluation. It is someone standing in front of what has been planted and asking, what did I actually grow here? And I feel like this person may be looking at the situation differently now. Not just, do I miss her? Not just, do I want her attention again? But what did I do with the chance I had? Because wanting to come back is one thing. Being able to return correctly is something else. And that is where your energy has changed the rules. My love, the old approach will not work anymore. A little message will not carry the same weight it used to. A vague signal will not open the same door. A breadcrumb will not feed the part of you that has learned how to nourish itself. They cannot come back through ego. They cannot come back through curiosity. They cannot come back through half-safe vulnerability, where they say just enough to see if you still care, but not enough to actually take emotional responsibility. Because access to you costs truth. But now truth cannot just be a sentence. It has to become consistency. It has to become repair. It has to become emotional courage. It has to become someone looking at the ground between you and saying, I see where I was careless. I see where I let something real sit there without tending to it. That is the Seven of Pentacles. It is the realization that something valuable does not grow just because someone desires it. It grows because someone shows up. And this is where your power feels very quiet. You are not demanding that they come back. You are not waiting with your hands open, hoping they finally understand. You are simply no longer available to be approached casually by someone who affected you deeply. And whether this person returns or not, this experience was never meant to teach you to lower your standards. It was meant to show you why they had to become higher. And with this Ace of Cups reversed closing the reading, I feel like this is where the emotional lesson becomes very clean. Because upright, the Ace of Cups can be an opening, a heart offering, a new emotional beginning. But reversed, psychologically, this is what happens when love, care, softness, and emotional availability are poured into a place that cannot hold them properly. It does not mean your love was wrong. It does not mean your softness was foolish. It means your cup was too sacred to keep being handed to someone who did not know how to carry it with both hands. And that brings us right back to the Seven of Cups reversed. Somebody had to wake up from the illusion that you were replaceable. They had to see that options are not the same as connection. Attention is not the same as emotional safety. Desire is not the same as devotion. And missing you is not the same as being ready for you. That is important, my love. Because your value was not created by this person finally noticing it. Your value was revealed by what could not be duplicated. They tried to find your feelings somewhere else, and all they found was proof that your energy had a weight, a warmth, a depth, a standard that does not appear everywhere. But this reading is not asking you to sit here and wait for somebody to realize what they should have honored earlier. It is asking you to understand why you cannot discount your own energy just because someone else could not afford it emotionally. Your expensive energy was never the problem. Their lack of readiness was the problem. Their fear of accountability was the problem. Their desire to receive depth without meeting it was the problem. And now, whether they return or stay silent, whether they speak or keep watching from a distance, you are being shown something very clearly. You do not have to become easier to love for someone who was careless with access. You do not have to pour from your cup just to prove there is something inside it. You already know. And deep down, so do they. So let them sit with the truth of what could not be replaced, and let yourself sit with the peace of knowing you were never too much. You were just never meant to be handled cheaply.